We've got roughly half the season left to play, but you can make a case that the American League is all wrapped up. In fact, a wild 4th of July may have clinched the American League Central and lined up all the playoff teams. Meanwhile, the Mets had a day that on paper looked absolutely disastrous, and yet Met fans have reasons to rejoice. This is Locked On MLB.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. On today's episode, we are going to be breaking down why the Mets, on paper, look like they had a horrible day, but the return of Max Scherzer gives Met fans hope that perhaps this is their year. Meanwhile, the Minnesota Twins took advantage of an unbelievable couple of days and can absolutely put their foot on the throat of two contenders who are going to be playing this afternoon being the 6th day of July 2022. Thanks so much for making us your first listen, as we're available on all your free podcasting catchers. And you can follow us on Twitter at LockedOnMLBPod. Same handle for Instagram. I'm Sully, your host. You can follow me at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Some of you are new to the show and may not be familiar with who I am. I am the host of the show. Before this, I was the host of the Sully Baseball Daily Podcast, which did an original episode every single day, 365 days a year, from October 2012 until April 2017. Basically, that show became Locked On MLB a few years ago. I've done a lot of things. If some of you may know me from my appearances on HBO Sports, including Curse of the Bambino and Reverse the Curse of Bambino. I've been an Emmy-nominated television producer, a filmmaker, a stand-up comedian, and I've written for several baseball magazines over the years. And I am just someone who loves the game. And that's why I'm here talking to you about baseball. Hey, I'm going to start off with Minnesota. The Minnesota Twins won again today, and the Twins took a game against the Chicago White Sox. Not the best weather in the world was going on in Chicago, but Alex Kirilloff hit a pair of home runs. In fact, there were just piles of home runs. Jorge Polanco hit a home run. How many there was? It was Polanco hit a home run, and Jose Miranda hit a home run. Max Kepler hit a home run. I think Kent Herbeck came back to hit a home run. I think they reinstated Torrey Hunter. He hit a home run. Everyone hit a home run. Tony Oliva came back before his Hall of Fame induction. I think he hit a home run. They're just absolutely pounding. And for Twins fans to see the return of Polanco, who had been hurt, and see he's had a couple of key home runs recently, they just absolutely pounded the Chicago White Sox. The final score of that was 8-2. And you know what? It never even seemed that close. And this coming off the fact that the Detroit Tigers absolutely manhandled the Cleveland Guardians by a score of 11-4. Quantrill did not play particularly well. Eric Haas, is that how I pronounce it? Hit a 2-run home run, and Green hit a double. Miguel Cabrera, by the way, Miguel Cabrera could go down as the person who has sunk the Cleveland Guardians, because he got on base 4 times today, and he drove in a run. He drove in a couple of key runs the other day, and Jonathan Schoop on the 4th of July was a one-man wrecking crew against Cleveland, and that was a game where the Guardians were swept in a doubleheader by Detroit. And in that same day, 4th of July, the Twins and the White Sox played an extra inning game. At one point, one of the strangest, and I'll say it, dumbest plays I've seen in a long, long time happen when the White Sox tied the game against the Minnesota Twins. And this is a key series. Remember how important this series is to the Chicago White Sox. Remember the White Sox, the team that everybody in their moose, including your pal Sully, picked to win the American League Central? Well, the White Sox are a sub-500 team heading into the 4th of July. But they were going head-to-head with Minnesota, and they had a chance to chip away to get to within 4, 3, maybe even 2 games if they played very well against them. A very talented team had to step up. And while they were losing late in the game, the great at-bat by Moncada and tied the game. And you had 2 on and nobody out. And it looked like it was just going to be it just looked like it was going to be inevitable that the White Sox take the lead. And then it happened. And it was such a weird play. I remember I watched the play happen live because I flipped over to that particular I flipped over to that particular game on my device. And who was it who came up after Moncada? Pollock hit a drive to right center field. It was pretty deep. And it was caught, okay? And it was deep enough to move the runner that was at second base to third. So you'd have first and third with 1 out. Except it looked like total anarchy on the base paths. Engel, the runner who was on second base, was running at top speed with Moncada right behind him. And the ball came into the infield, and they tagged Moncada, and they stepped on second base. It was a triple play. It was a triple play because Moncada thought the ball was going to deflect off the wall, so he took off running. And Engel, who saw Moncada running on top speed, didn't want Moncada to pass him, so he ran before he tagged up. So in an absolutely key, critical moment in a game where the White Sox had to dust themselves off and win this game, they ran themselves into one of the strangest triple plays I've ever seen, based entirely on a brain meltdown from Moncada, and took them out of the inning. And Minnesota wound up scoring 4 runs in the top of the 10th and wound up winning the game 6-3 in 10 innings. And couple that with the home run derby that was played today, the Minnesota Twins have gone from, well, let's just go back. Let's go back that on the 22nd day of June, the Twins were in second place. They were 1 game behind Cleveland. Okay? And since then, the Twins have gone 9-5 since then, which is respectable. It's not earth-shattering, but Cleveland's been the worst team in the American League since taking over first place, losing 11 of their next 15 games. And the White Sox, who are in desperate need to dust themselves off, have played losing baseball since then too. They're 5-7 since then. So since that moment when Cleveland took over first place on the 22nd day of June, the Twins have done everything in their power to wrestle complete, and did I mention total control, out of the American League Central. And an interesting thing can happen this afternoon. This is the couple of day games are being played here on this Wednesday. And with that, you have a day game, of course, I'm going to say 10 a.m. California time. Shane Bieber's going up against Michael Pineda, and Joe Ryan is going up against Lance Lynn. If the Guardians lose and the Twins win, the Twins will have a 5.5 game lead. 5.5 games. Now, granted, it will still only be 3 games in the loss column, but still, staring down this period of time where it could have turned the American League Central into an absolute showdown, the Minnesota Twins are showing a lot of mettle. They are showing that they have faced this challenge, the multitude of games they had to play against Cleveland, and the series against the Chicago White Sox. And if they can get to this end and be pulling away, well, then think about it. If Cleveland loses tomorrow, they're a 500 team. The Twins will be the only team with a winning record in their division. Also keep in mind, the Astros are the only team with a winning record in their division. And it looks like the Yankees, Red Sox, Rays, and Blue Jays are all going to have winning records. So we're going to be here in early July. And pretty much the American League has been taken care of. Now, that's not good for baseball to have half a season staring you in the face and going, I don't know about this. Maybe we're done. You know, maybe our playoff situation is all taken care of right now. It's a distinct possibility. Not saying I like it, but it's a distinct possibility that that's the case. In fact, all these teams I just mentioned are almost surefire bets to go to the postseason right now. If you're going to make any bets, go to betonline.net. It's your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. You can find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's Major League Baseball regular season. Also, check it out for MMA, boxing, golf. It's your continued source for sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcast news, all this season. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Okay, folks. Normally, a night like tonight would be a disaster for the New York Mets. They lost a walk-off game to the dreadful Cincinnati Reds, a team that's not even trying. Their bats were dead against Cincinnati. 1-0 final. Walk-off on a sac fly by Mike Moustakas. Yeah, that Mike Moustakas. And you turn around, and what else do you see? You turn around and you see that the Atlanta Braves won again. Holy Toledo, as my cousin Dave would say, there's death, there's taxes, and there's the Atlanta Braves. And the Braves, they beat up, who did they? They beat up the Cardinals, which is good news for Milwaukee. But Ian Anderson got the win. The Braves scored 5 runs in the first. They just took control. The final score was 7-1. The Philadelphia Phillies, remember them? They're on one of their winning jags. They're above 500. Schwarber hit a pair of home runs. And the Nationals just were pounded. It was 11-0. If the Nationals didn't show up, it would have been a forfeit, and the final score would have been officially 9-0. Instead, they lost 11-0. That's right. They might as well not have shown up, literally, and they would have done better in their run differential. So all these, and by the way, while we're all sleeping, let's also keep in mind something else that happened yesterday. Sandy Alcantara won again. Pitched 8 shutout innings against the Angels. The Angels managed to push a run across in the 9th against Tanner Scott, but the Marlins won the game 2-1. Okay, so what? So what? The Marlins are now 1 game under 500. They are showing up. And I had said to people before the season that if the Marlins could get some timely hits, they have the pitching to contend. Well, they're going up. If they win tomorrow, do they play? Yeah, they play the Angels tomorrow again. If they win, they will pull themselves to even 500. Even 500. And when you take a look at some of the disappointing teams in the National League wildcard situation, like, for example, San Francisco, who continues to stub their toe, and the Cardinals are on a little bit of a losing streak, the Marlins are on the verge of catching the Giants and the Cardinals. The Marlins are on the verge that right now, as of right now, Philadelphia is one of the wild card teams. For the first time all year, or the first time since Labor Day, the Phillies have punched at least a day where they're a playoff team. The Marlins are knocking on that door. while nobody was paying attention to this. Nobody saw that this was happening, but they've won. They're right now on a 6-game winning streak. And I'll say it all the time, there's never a bad time to win 6 games in a row. They win tomorrow, it's 7 in a row. It's a week of winning. It's never a bad time to win a week's worth of games. And they are knocking on the door of a potential wildcard berth as we are roughly the halfway mark of the season. So here we are. With the Braves catching up and the rest of the National League East starting to breathe down the neck of the Mets, this would normally be a disastrous night for the New York Metropolitans. And yet it is a night for them to rejoice. There will come a point in the season where all nights will be binary. Did they win? Did they lose? And you can make the case that we may already be there as we're passing the halfway mark of the season. I would argue no for this case with the New York Mets. The thing that is encouraging for the Mets is the return of Max Scherzer. Scherzer was everything they could have wanted him to be. He came out, pitched a 1-2-3 first. He gave them 6 shutout innings. He struck out 11 Reds. He allowed 2 hits, no walks. An 11-0 strikeout to walk ratio. Scattered a pair of hits. This is what you need. This idea that the Mets are now going to insert this pitcher into their rotation, and with Jacob deGrom shortly on the way, yeah, it stinks if you're a Met fan to know that you've lost a game in the standings to Philadelphia, Atlanta, and Miami all in the same night against a Reds team that stinks. I mean, you take a look at the Reds. I mean, the ERAs of the pitchers, Lodolo, his ERA is over 4. Kunal, his ERA is almost 7. Detweiler, respectable 3.96. Hoffman, 3.29. Strickland, Hunter Strickland, ERA over 5, gets the win. They couldn't push 2 runs across that pitching staff. Okay, that kind of stinks. But knowing that you get the real Max Scherzer back should at least give Met fans some pause. That they're like, okay, things can look better. Yeah, bad night. 1 step forward, 2 steps back a little bit tonight. But do you know what? If you're a Met fan, you see that you got back the real Scherzer. And you know what you're going to be getting into. Now, of course, the Mets, if they can win tomorrow, that's winning another series, which is if you want to hold back the likes of some of the teams that you're going to be facing, if you're a Met fan, got to keep winning series. Peterson against Grant Ashcraft on Wednesday. And then we're going on to, I just opened up the wrong day there. Then you go take a look at who the Mets are playing afterwards, and they're playing the Marlins. And, of course, the Marlins are going to have images of a potential showdown and announcing their presence with authority. But the Mets can do theirs as well. It is an interesting time to be a National League East fan. You got the defending champs. You've got a Fish team that is thinking, hey, don't forget about us. You have a Philly team that wants to turn things around and right now are technically tied for a playoff spot. And you have a Met team that thinks that this could be the year where they're going to give their fans all the memories and maybe give their players the ring that they've been waiting for so long. And if you're looking for great memories and a ring, think about BlueNile.com, whether you're ready to pop the question or you're celebrating a milestone moment. Find jewelry as unique as the one you love with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. You're looking for fine jewelry but having trouble choosing? Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you with a memorable gift at every budget. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com, and Locked On MLB listeners get $50 off of purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement rings, so use code Locked On. That's code Locked On. Plus, every order is insured, ships for free, and arrives in discreet packaging. They won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BetOnline.com today. It is a little bit disturbing that we're seeing so many races wrapped up so quickly. So if you're a casual baseball fan, there are some things you got to be rooting for at this point. Now, I'm almost totally giving up on the Angels at this point, who have just shown that, even though they got off to a nice, fun start, they are now 8 games under 500. I don't see anything happening there. But the Mariners are they've been playing very well recently, are inching closer and closer to 500, and they beat San Diego on Tuesday, and they're creeping there. They're creeping back. They're getting better performances from Robbie Ray. If you're a casual baseball fan, you got to want to see some of these teams dust themselves off because we want to see some fun, really fun pennant races along the way. I was hoping this would happen in the Central, but I'm starting to think the Cleveland Guardians are coming back down to earth. And why the White Sox continue to have Tony La Russa there is completely baffling to me. But here we are. You're going to want to see a team like the Marlins and a team like the Phillies get back into it. You're going to want to see the Central, the teams there starting to piece it together and maybe have a great race between Milwaukee and St. Louis. And you're going to want to see San Francisco get their act together because they've been flopping and floundering recently. I don't want to see these races wrapped up. I want, remember we had last year that total anarchy that we were going down to the final days of the season and not knowing who was doing what? This was supposed to be expanded this year with putting an additional wild card team in there, not shut off. The unintentional, effect of what happened by adding the other playoff team is that we only have a handful of playoff teams in each league, and they all seem to have a place. I want a sense of urgency. And so, if you're a Yankee fan, if you're a Met fan, a Dodger fan, whatever, obviously you want your team to rampage. If your team is in the middle of it, fine. But if you're a casual fan of some of these other teams, come on, get behind it. Nothing's more fun than anarchy towards the end of the year. And we're seeing things align into place. Now, I'm going to tease something for tomorrow's episode. I'm going to be talking to, I'm going to have a couple of guests coming on in the next couple of days. We're going to talk a little bit about the Blue Jays, talk a little bit about the Red Sox, and, wrap up this week talking about that. But I'm also going to talk a little bit about wanting to embrace a certain amount of unpredictability. There was a play in the Padres and the Mariners where a bunt turned into utter chaos on the base paths. I mentioned that triple play the other day between Minnesota and Chicago. I don't just want chaos in the standings. I want unpredictability and chaos in the field because that's fun, it's entertaining, and it adds a sense of danger to the game. It adds a sense of unpredictability, which I'm not going to be old man Sullivan and just saying, my day, because I do understand the value of analytics. I do understand the value of advanced and complicated statistics, some of whom that I will never understand. I do. And I'm not saying teams shouldn't use them. But there has to be an element of danger, of risk, and an element of, let's roll the dice and see what happens, which seems to be totally eliminated if everything's mapped out beforehand. And it's adding to an element of predictability that we're going to possibly see the teams all lined up now, and we're going to know exactly how they're going to play each game. We're going to know exactly how they're going to line up their bullpen and line up their lineups and how long everyone's going to go. And while it will undoubtedly bring some thrills, I do want more risk. Risk is fun, and anarchy is fun. And saying, did you see that? Or what were they thinking? Or boy, they were lucky that worked out. Those are things that seem to be lacking from the game today. The game is great. The level of the players are great. But I think they need to push the unpredictability and, well, the risk. And that's going to be a big topic we're going to be talking about later on in this week. But for this week, give credit to Minnesota. They were behind just a couple of weeks ago, and they have a chance to take total control of the division in less than 24 hours. Give credit to the Marlins for getting off the mat and not be flopping on the dock. Give credit to the Phillies, who were playing so badly they had to get rid of the manager, and they lost their superstar player. And now they find themselves in a playoff spot. Give credit to the Braves for continuing to punch hard as the defending champs. And give a lot of credit to Max Scherzer, who's come back as advertised. And as advertised here, I want to thank you for making us your first listen. Hey, for your second listen, well, let's just talk about Locked On MLB Prospects. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the Major League Baseball stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Talking about how the AL Central has gone from razor thin to in total control, and the arrival of Max Scherzer, what that means for the Mets. This is Locked On MLB for the 6th day of July, 2022. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.